In a rare display of bipartisan pragmatism amid escalating chaos, the U.S. Senate on Sunday night advanced a funding package that could end the longest government shutdown in American history, now stretching into its 40th day since October 1, 2025. The 60-40 procedural vote, which overcame a Democratic filibuster, marked a pivotal breakthrough, but the path forward remains fraught with hurdles, including final passage in both chambers and President Donald Trump's signature. As lawmakers inch toward resolution, the human toll mounts. Thousands of flights canceled nationwide due to Federal Aviation Administration, FAA staffing shortages, and over 42 million Americans facing delayed or partial Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP benefits, plunging families into uncertainty just weeks before Thanksgiving. The shutdown, triggered by partisan clashes over spending priorities, has evolved from a fiscal standoff into a full-blown national crisis. Republicans, led by Senate Majority Leader John Thune, RSD, have pushed a clean continuing resolution to fund the government through mid-November, rejecting Democratic demands for extensions of Affordable Care Act, ACA subsidies set to expire at year's end. Democrats, under Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, DNY, initially held firm, arguing that rising healthcare costs amid inflation warranted immediate action. But the spiraling impacts, particularly on air travel and food assistance, forced a cadre of moderate Democrats to defect, providing the 60 votes needed to invoke cloture and debate the bill. "This isn't about politics anymore. It's about people," said Senator Dick Durbin, D. Il Dawes, the chamber's number 2 Democrat, who broke ranks alongside Sens. Tim Kaine, D-Va, Maggie Hassan, DNH, and others. The defections, numbering 8 from the Democratic caucus plus independent Senator Angus King, I Maine, reflect growing frustration within the party. Progressives like Senator Bernie Sanders, I Vit, decried the compromise as a horrific mistake, insisting it abandons vulnerable Americans to GOP austerity. Yet centrists, facing re-election pressures and constituent backlash, viewed the status quo as untenable. The shutdown's effects, air traffic controllers unpaid, SNAP in limbo, have grown too dire, Durbin noted. The emerging deal, hammered out in marathon weekend sessions, combines a short-term stopgap funding the government through January 30, 2026, with 3 full-year appropriations bills for agriculture, military construction, and legislative branches. It guarantees back pay for furloughed federal workers, over 750,000 strong, and reinstates laid-off employees, addressing immediate economic fallout estimated at $3.7 billion in lost productivity and wages. Notably, the agriculture bill safeguards SNAP funding through 2026, averting deeper cuts. Democrats secured a promise for future negotiations on ACA subsidies, though without a firm timeline, drawing ire from the left flank. Still, the agreement teeters. The Senate must now clear additional procedural votes, potentially delayed by holdouts like Senator Rand Paul, who demands amendments stripping hemp provisions from the Farm Bill. The House, controlled by Republicans, must then concur, and Speaker Mike Johnson has signaled swift action but warned of tweaks to align with Trump's priorities. President Trump, who has lambasted the filibuster as the only barrier to resolution, urged senators to stay in D.C. until we win big. His administration's hardline stance on spending has fueled the impasse, with Trump allies like USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins warning that contingency funds can't fully bridge SNAP gaps without congressional approval. Nowhere is the shutdown's bite felt more acutely than in the skies. On November 5th, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy announced FAA-mandated reductions at 40 major airports, citing chronic understaffing among 14,000 unpaid air traffic controllers required to work without compensation. "Safety first. We're reducing traffic to a trickle ahead of Thanksgiving," Duffy said, a move that has already grounded over 2,000 flights in a single weekend. Airlines like Southwest and Delta slashed schedules. Southwest alone canceled 150 flights on Sunday, stranding travelers from Los Angeles to Philadelphia. Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport endured ground stops, while Houston's George Bush Intercontinental saw lines snake through terminals as weary passengers rerouted via trains, buses, or rental cars. The fallout extends beyond inconvenience. Families have missed weddings, surgeries, and funerals. Businesses report billions in cascading losses. National Air Traffic Controllers Association President Nick Daniels decried the recipe for disaster, with controllers logging 60-hour weeks sans pay. Even post-reopening, Duffy cautioned, normalcy won't snap back overnight. Fatigued staff need time to recover. Travelers like Tayami Vega, a Miami group homeworker aiding schizophrenia patients, now navigate aid disruptions while dodging flight woes. It's not just delays, it's lives upended, Vega told CNN. Parallel to aviation agony, SNAP, the nation's largest anti-hunger lifeline, teeters on collapse. Serving 42 million low-income individuals, the program injects $8 billion monthly into grocers and local economies. Shutdown froze November's $9.2 billion disbursement, with the USDA tapping a $5 billion contingency fund for partial payouts only, capping a single person's maximum at $146 instead of $292. In rural counties and tribal lands, where 30–40% of residents rely on SNAP, small grocers face ruin. One Florida pantry worker noted, "Half our sales vanish, and we're done." Legal battles have intensified the scramble. A Rhode Island federal judge ordered full payments on November 6th, rebuked by the Trump administration's appeal to the Supreme Court, which on Friday granted a stay for partial issuance. By Sunday, the First Circuit Appeals Court again sided against the White House, mandating full funding, but a USDA memo demanded states immediately undo any full disbursements, threatening penalties. "This is hostage-taking against the hungry," fumed Senator Amy Klobuchar, D-Min. Food banks, in disaster mode, report surges. Washington's Capital Area Food Bank, serving furloughed feds, distributed 20% more amid the crisis. In West Virginia, pregnant mother Laura Bowles rations Walmart hauls for her 5 kids, her SNAP card empty. Massachusetts AG Andrea Joy Campbell blasted USDA's inaccurate info delaying aid, while Georgia's Governor's Brian Kemp withheld state funds, blaming Senate Democrats. Economists warn of broader ripples. National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett pegged GDP losses at far worse than expected, with shutdown costs eclipsing $3 billion weekly. Head Start programs for 1,600 low-income child centers lost staggered funding, and WIC maternal aid hangs by a thread. Federal workers from TSA screeners in Akron to CDC staff in Atlanta miss second paychecks, consoling one another at pop-up pantries. As the Senate reconvenes Monday, optimism flickers. Thune hailed the vote as end of the beginning, while Schumer, though voting no, conceded the need to fight another day on health care. Airlines exhaled relief, with Delta's CEO tweeting, "Progress can't come soon enough." Nonprofits like the National Council of Nonprofits urged swift action. End the cruelty now. Yet shadows linger. Trump's post-election mandate, fresh from November Ford victories, emboldens GOP hawks to resist concessions, while Democrats eye 2026 midterms. If the deal falters, experts predict SNAP chaos into December and air travel paralysis through holidays, eroding public faith in governance. Senator Susan Collins, our Maine, a key broker, captured the stakes. "We're finally making progress, but time is our enemy." For millions grounded and going hungry, the Senate's next moves aren't just legislative, they're lifelines.